there's this article on Entrepreneur where Bill Gates says, lazy people make the best employees. And I'm here to tell you right now, that's the biggest shit I've ever heard in my life. I don't know what his, what he was trying to prove with that or what he was trying to say with that, but that's the biggest BS I've ever heard. And let me tell you a story. So obviously a lot of people know I'm a marketer. I have a marketing consulting agency, creative agency. But I started, my career began as an audio engineer. So I worked at KMA Studios, which was one of the most prestigious studios out here in New York City. It was on 50th and Broadway. Really nice. It was a small studio, but anyone that you can imagine worked there. So just to throw a few names, Hove recorded out of there. Beyonce recorded out of there. J. Cole recorded out of there. A lot of Beaver, Chris Brown, a lot of artists recorded out of that studio. And Kenneth DeFille, also 7-time Grammy Award-winning engineer. That was his house studio. And then we had DJ Swivel that was there. But the point that I'm getting to is I was an intern there. I interned there as an intern. Then I went in. I became assistant engineer, and then I became one of the house engineers. And here's one of the biggest things that I'll tell you right now. I learned very quickly working in the studio regarding artists and talent about how on top of your shit you need to be. So I will see the top talent in the world go to the studio, right, and knock out 6, 7, 8, 10, even 12 songs in a session. They came in there with a game plan and they bust their ass. They were in there working, right? And again, we're talking about the top talent in the world. That's what they were doing. And attention to detail, oh man, their attention to detail was just ridiculous. But then you saw the lesser talent, right? And when I say lesser talent, not because of potential, it had nothing to do with potential. Let's say accomplishments and record sales, whatever you want to call it. The lesser talent will go in there with a big entourage and knock out one record here, one record there, or verse here, verse there. And then you look at a 8-hour blockout session or a 12-hour blockout session in which either they are or the labels are paying $150, $200, $300 an hour, and they didn't do absolutely anything. They were just smoking up a storm and not getting any work done. So that taught me right away how attention to detail you need to have, the discipline you need to have, and the work ethic you need to have to be great at what you do. And then, mind you, I know these things because I remember being an assistant engineer or being the intern. I was the guy that they called in at the end of the session to bounce all the records out and put everything on hard drives and making sure everyone had copies and sending references to this person and that person, or I had to clean up the tracks to send roughs to like artists and managers and whoever the heck needed it, or the label. I was that guy. So I remember, and I know, and I'm not going to say any names because, those rooms were very private and, it's just corny to me, like just start mentioning names and stuff like that, but huge talent. And where I was there for like an hour and a half bouncing out records. 10, 12, 15 records, doing cleanups, rough mixing them, sending them out. And then you'll have some of the lesser talent, you go in there, they couldn't even finish a record, or they just couldn't come up with the idea, or they had no plan. And I've never understood or never think, I totally disagree with Bill Gates, and I don't care about the level of success that he's had, right? Because a lot of people just think because people have been successful in business that they're the smartest people, the most intellectual people in the world, and it's not that. And again, I'm not saying that Bill Gates is not smart or intellectual. I just disagree with his perspective on this. The most successful people that I have ever had the privilege to be around are the hardest working individuals I've ever seen. I know billionaires that barely sleep. First of all, and let's talk about Elon Musk here. When Elon Musk had an interview and they asked him about juggling Tesla and his responsibilities in Tesla and also doing Twitter, he literally said in an interview, and I'm paraphrasing here, he said he would never recommend the hours of work that he had to put in to juggle both Twitter and Tesla at the same time while he was trying to get Twitter to where he wanted it to be at. He said I think it was around the lines of it's like unhumane, and he says he would never recommend it. So you're telling me that Elon Musk is lazy? And I remember my days in corporate world with before starting my agency. The hours that I worked upon traveling were absolutely insane. I have a business now, and the stresses are different, right? Because payroll and employees and moving this and moving that and client acquisition and all these things. Yeah, that all plays a role. But the time that I work, the time that I have to allocate to work and have to bust my butt every single day to keep moving business forward, to make sure my clients are happy, to make sure my employees are happy, to make sure the business is flowing, it's insane. It's insane. And on top of the traveling, so I just totally disagree upon that laziness stuff. I totally disagree. The ones who are lazy, it will only take them to a certain point. And I'm going to tell you why. Because typically the ones who are lazy are extremely talented. They have a lot of talent. So they're lazy. And their talent sometimes covers up the laziness. And I'll give you an example. Someone who's very talented but lazy will go off and, half-ass it around the whole way. But then will present to you an amazing piece of work right at the end, right? Because to them, it's effortless, right? And what happens is, as a business owner, right, and as someone who has consulted for major brands and been around them and stuff like that, what I've seen is that the headache that brought to get that individual to get the job done and on time outweighed the good work that they did at the end, because the whole team was in shambles. The whole team was in distress. Not because the talented person couldn't get the work done. It's because they were lazy and not professional enough to stick on schedule and stay on schedule to get things done. So then the good work always outshadowed the laziness. And then entrepreneurs or business owners or managers will kind of continue. Oh, but it's so good, and kind of throw it under the rug. And then it comes to a point where it just catches up to them. And they're noticing that the lazy individual, no matter how talented they are, it's affecting the morale of the whole business, the whole company, the whole team. And it's hurting the ways in the company that sometimes you can't see it on a spreadsheet. And that's just the honest truth. And that happens all the time. The hardest working individuals, the most successful working individuals are the most hardest working individuals in the world that I've ever seen. They bust their butt. Sometimes they're putting in 12, 16-hour days. And obviously there's days that they don't, because that's not an everyday thing. Let's just make that clear. But hard work and discipline is key. It's absolutely key. So I disagree with Bill Gates. I disagree with the whole adage or anyone trying to promote that lazy people are good employees and are good for business, because they're not. They can cover it up as much as they can with the talent. But at some point or another, the laziness is going to catch up. The BS is going to catch up. And people and managers are always aware of those individuals, because it really bites them in the butt at the most disappointing time, when you least need it, when you have that big client where you need and the laziness for that individual clicks in, or when you have a team working together and trying to make something happen, and because this person knows how talented they are, they're just cocky about it, I'm going to be lazy. And it messes up the morale and it messes up business. I totally disagree, and I will always disagree. Laziness is not good.